Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me by now, I am Nokomis and I am just your friendly neighborhood goth. And today we're going to be talking about fat phobia within fashion and the media. This has been something that I've been wanting to get into for quite some time now, and I am just going to be sitting here casually, comfortably, just having a discussion with y'all. So I would like to call these segments just Yappin' because I just feel that is very appropriate because we're all just yapping. So before I get into what I'm going to be talking about today, I just kind of wanted to do something fun. So with every segment that I start, I maybe just kind of talk about what I am wearing. So maybe I'll start with doing that with perfume because I love perfume. So today I am wearing a combination of Seance's Foxblood perfume and Book by Commodity. These two together are so good. Those really rich cherry bourbon notes with the earthiness of Book. So good. Yeah, so this is a really hard topic to get into because we so regularly see fat shaming through the media. We have since we were kids. I was born in '97 and I grew up in the early 2000s, and you saw it pretty frequently everywhere. You couldn't even really watch a television ad without seeing, or a commercial without seeing some type of fat shaming or fat phobia, and it was through every single movie that we watched growing up. So that has always been kind of a thing that I dealt with as a kid. When it comes to fat shaming in the media, there are actually quite a few things that come to mind because that it was so prevalent in the early 2000s. And I also want to reiterate, like, fat shaming has been around for a very, very, very long time. It has been seen throughout multiple sources, books and reading material, movies, shows, and so forth, as long as TV has been around. I honestly feel like a very famous trope that we see is that, Marilyn Monroe was a plus-sized woman. In reality, Marilyn Monroe was actually pretty small. I wouldn't say that she was plus size. I would say that she was definitely curvier, but she wasn't plus size. We've kind of deluded ourselves into finding people within the media who look closest to us. And as a fat person, I tried often to do that when I was younger, and I just could never really find it. So some other examples that kind of come to mind is like Norbit, which was a very popular Eddie Murphy movie. Has some pretty intense depictions of fat phobia, especially when you kind of compare Respucia to the other woman that Eddie Murphy's character falls in love with. You see quite a bit of colorism within that as well, kind of associating thinness and prettiness with lighter skin tone. But you also see it within the fat phobia, Respucia being a larger woman and who loves to eat and all of these things, very much associating the idea of fatness with being kind of grotesque and overeating and so forth. And then I think of The Devil Wears Prada, right? So Anne Hathaway's character, she is a size 6, which is small, which is actually extremely small. But she is regularly dogged in this movie for being someone who is not a size 0 or 2. And there are even depictions of women in that movie who are in fact a size 2 and still considered to be larger, which is wild if you really think about it. When you think about sizing and so forth, when you think about 00, 0, size 2, that is a relatively very petite person. So when you are thinking about how the fashion industry regularly kind of pushes this idea that even when you're at your smallest, you can go smaller, it creates a very unhealthy mindset to grow up in that. It is no surprise that we are seeing the return of heroin chic. And for those of you who don't really know what heroin chic is, I'm going to read a little excerpt on Wikipedia kind of explaining it. So as it reads here, heroin chic is the style popularized in early 1990s fashion and categorized by pale skin, dark circles underneath the eyes, emaciated features, androgyny, and stringy hair, all traits associated with abuse of heroin or other drugs. This style was extremely popular in the 90s and early 2000s, as a lot of high fashion models were portrayed as being heroin chic. When you had the popularization of social media platforms like MySpace and Tumblr, who very much had this kind of skinny spo, like heroin chic pages that really kind of forced women into this idea that they had to look and be a specific way to be admired and to be deemed as attractive. It puts a strain on your mental well-being, right? I know for me, like I said, I was born in 97, so growing up in the early 2000s, I regularly came across posts like this. The surgence of social media has really changed our overall idea of what it is to have a body, especially as a woman, and what is ultimately deemed as attractive. We seek approval from those outside of us. And so over the decades, you know, fashion has become one of those things where it used to be so much as a part of our identity and showing people who we were, but now it is very much associated with how small can you really get. While we did have a span of body positivity, it really kind of shifted, right? Because body positivity wasn't even so much as just accepting different bodies as much as it was bringing representation to disabled folk, to fat folk, to BIPOC and so forth, who very much were not represented very well in the fashion industry and who were not represented very well within a media platform at all, period. So again, we kind of go back to movies like Mean Girls or Shallow Hal, Just Friends, Norbit, Devil Wears Prada. All of these movies have heavy associations with fatness equaling bad. You see it mentioned several times, for example, like Regina George in Mean Girls.
Regina, we have to talk to you.
Is butter a carb?
Yes. Regina, you're wearing sweatpants. It's Monday.
So? So that's against the rules, and you can't sit with us. Whatever. Those rules aren't real. They were real that day I wore a vest, because that vest was disgusting.
You can't sit with us!
These sweatpants are all that fits me right now. Fine. You can walk home, bitches.
That's where you're going, fat ass!
Who very much is a very thin woman who is obsessing over her body size and seeing her obsession of needing to fit in a particular dress. You see it in Bride Wars, for example, where Anne Hathaway's character basically sabotages her best friend and making her gain weight because you don't alter Vera to fit you, you alter yourself to fit Vera. And these are very, like, common things that you see throughout media. These are things that I consumed regularly as a kid. And I have never been thin. I have never been small. I've always been full figured. And we really start to see that even with the body positivity movement, people were so abhorrently against this. So many clothing companies still refuse to extend their sizing and still very much refuse to cater to larger individuals or those who may not be able-bodied and more. It is greatly frustrating because as a fat person who very much is within the goth subculture and so forth, I see this a lot within goth communities as well. You see a lot of fatphobia within this community, which is awful. And you also see within clothing sizes as well. I probably know of only like one company that I would label as a goth company who actively includes multiple different body sizes and heights and so forth, and that would be fox blood. I wear a lot of fox blood, and that's because it's one of the very few options available to me. I mean, I do love the brand, but like I said, they're one of the very few companies that actively care about including plus size individuals. Thinking back to media as well that I feel like greatly portrays just how insane heroin chic was, and all of this body shaming and needing to be thin were shows like America's Next Top Model. Tyra Banks is a very interesting character to me. She's wild, cosplaying homeless people, cosplaying fat people. She is just so out of touch. So out of touch. And I'm not saying that she isn't gorgeous. She is very beautiful, but the amount of fat shaming on her show was absolutely ridiculous. And call me dramatic, call me whatever you want to, but this type of rhetoric kills people. Like, it genuinely kills people. We need to be careful about what we say. This isn't like, I think that a lot of people confuse bluntness and all these other things, honesty, and just being a plain bitch. Like, it's completely unneeded. But you see so many different things occur on this show, like for example Robin being considered plus size, and that one crazy looking lady.
He's got the best body here.
He needs to lose 5 to 10 pounds.
They're all fat. The entire room is fat. I'm fat. You're all fat.
I literally hate her so much. Her saying that there is just no way that America's Next Top Model should have a plus size individual winning, that she could just never see that. Now, she reacted to this by saying, like recently, saying it was acting, like whatever, and that's okay, but, well, not okay, but it's just like, you know, okay, eye roll, whatever. But the thing is that Robin was not plus size, and it's weird what we deem as plus sized, right? It's weird that we it's weird to me that a size 14 is considered plus size. It's weird to me that a size 16 is considered plus size. And then all of these brands think that they're being inclusive by including size 14, 16, and 18. And they're just like, oh, but we cater to fat people. No, you cater to mid-sized people. Those are mid-sized people, but they're not fat people. They're not plus-sized people. And it's just kind of like a lazy way for brands to basically show off their fat phobia, right? America's Next Top Model was really intense about that. But this type of rhetoric was absolutely everywhere in the early 2000s. The thing that actually comes to me the most when thinking about the early 2000s and what genuinely messed up my mind and so many others was Jessica Simpson. I think about her all the time. I think about how people dogged her so much for being fat, and she was not fat. That was like what was wild to me. Nicole Richie is another one. Like, Paris Hilton is a notoriously extremely skinny person. Like, of course anyone next to her is going to look different in comparison. So thinking about Nicole Richie and how they treated her, and then also thinking about Jessica Simpson and the way that the tabloids dogged her. I remember standing in line at Kroger when I was a kid and seeing a magazine talking about Jessica Simpson and her weight gain. And they were talking about her back fat. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, she looks completely normal. She looks like a normal person would look. She looks normal. I don't, it's just wild to me. And it's also wild that high fashion in general, so like kind of going back to like into fashion and modeling and things of that nature, it's kind of wild to me that you still don't really see a variety of bodies on runways. There's a lot of excuses for this. I remember when I was taking fashion marketing and fashion management in high school, the teacher literally kind of excused it as like, oh, well, they want to see a body that the clothes just kind of hang off of, you know, there's a purpose to it. And I remember that bothering me a lot, because what the hell do you mean? What the hell do you mean by that? Now, here's the thing, is that there are a variety of different body types. There are body types that are thin and tall. There are body types that are short and fat, curvy, hourglass, pear, triangle, whatever. Like, there are so many different body types out there. And I have no issue with modeling agencies and companies using thinner people. It's just also use somebody else. Like, please use somebody else as well. Like, I want to see a dress modeled on the runway, okay, by someone thinner, but then followed by someone who is maybe more mid-sized, followed by someone who is plus-sized. I want to see diversity. And a lot of these companies, this is what gets me about clothing companies, they have the money to do this. They have the money to extend their sizes. The fact of the matter is that they're just doubling down on the fact that they don't like fat people. American Eagle is actually a really good example of this. They completely discontinued their 26 and 24 sizing. Victoria's Secret also has gotten rid of a lot of their plus sizes. H&M is kind of hit and miss in terms of like what they cater to in plus sizes. One of my favorite brands, Noctex, discontinued their plus size sizing, which they said that the reason why they did it, you know, was because they're a smaller company or whatever. But I'm like, but you have a lot of different clothing to choose from on your site. You could just release fewer products and make them available in more sizes. The fact of the matter is that these companies do not care about whether or not they cater to you. It's deeply frustrating. Deeply frustrating. I think it's definitely kind of frustrating, like trying to find clothing that I like, you know, and going onto the website and seeing that they only cater up to a large or extra large. Very even rarely an extra large. You see this a lot in numerous fashion brands, and actually the two that kind of come to mind when I think of like big conglomerate companies or like whatever that do this is like Urban Outfitters is a big one. They usually only cater up to a size large. Free People, and like keep in mind these are places I wouldn't shop at anyway, but they're places that I just noticed that this is huge, right? Altered State is another one. Abercrombie and Finch for the longest time. Hollister. All of these are very popular, very popular stores and places to shop at, but you will never see a fat person in their clothing. And these companies have openly kind of spoken against larger people, especially the founder of Abercrombie and Fitch, who said that he never wants to see a fat person in his clothing, you know, that fat people are gross and all these other things, and that he just doesn't want to see it. He'll never cater to plus sizes. It's awful the things that we grew up with that just kind of normalized this behavior of like hating yourself, and it leads into a lot of different issues, right? So rather than just, you know, it leading to being self-conscious and not confident, it can also lead to disordered eating. To be very transparent, to be forthright, I struggle a lot with disordered eating still to this day. I dealt with a lot of bullying growing up for being fat, for having psoriasis, for just not being conventionally attractive. My eyes were too small, my lips were too big, I was fat, I had big legs. There are so many different things that I dealt with in school that still very much bother me to this day. I was obsessed with going to the gym all throughout high school. I did drop weight, but I was still very much a full-figured person, and it's definitely kind of wild too, right? The way that people will treat you differently by losing weight. I did feel more respected when I lost weight, but for a lot of people, it still wasn't good enough. I got to the point when I got older that I said, I don't care. I used to think fat was a bad word. I am fat, and that is okay. I am thriving. I am successful. I own my own tattoo shop. I am doing just fine while being fat. Are there still things I would like to change in the world as a fat person? Absolutely. There are still many things I think that should be improved, but I'm still successful, and I did all of that while being fat and finally being able to destigmatize that word. And still being an adult who struggles with disordered eating is very difficult, but I manage every day. Talking about eating disorders is so taboo, But a lot of people also don't want to talk about how they happen. And a lot of the times it is due to a lot of hate that fat individuals get in the media and in fashion and so forth, and being unable to really find what suits you and makes you feel the most confident. I have a friend of mine who is very, very close and dear to my heart, who is tall. She's very tall, 6'2" and plus size, and wears a size 11 shoe. And we have very much related on this topic, you know, because it is difficult being plus size alone, but being tall and plus size also extremely difficult. Being able to find things that fit properly, extremely difficult. The fact that so many shoe companies even don't cater to women with larger shoe sizes. It's just a consistent issue across the board that I feel like every single fat person across the world can relate to. And it doesn't even matter if there are points in time where fat people were deemed as being more physically attractive. It is usually very fleeting and is usually followed by something that is extreme opposite of that, right? For example, the heroin chic thing is something that is very much coming back in style. I've been seeing it all over TikTok. I've been seeing it all over the runway. I have been seeing it everywhere. Like, heroin chic is coming back. It is coming back fast, which is so scary to me. I feel like heroin chic also heavily relates to the aspects of diet culture as well. Kind of going back to movies, right? And how movies portray fat people and portray the fear of fatness. You know, we think about dieting, for example, in White Chicks. You know, I feel like that is mentioned so many times in that movie.
What do you think?
That looks so sexy.
Are you kidding? Hi, I'm Cellulite Sally. Look at my huge badonkey. Oh, and don't forget about me. I'm Back Fat Betty. Now, who could have said that? Oh, yeah, it's Tina the Talking Tummy. I can't even wear a short skirt and a top without looking like a fat pig.
Well, calm down. I'll go see if there's something else out there for you, okay?
Really thinking about Mean Girls, again, for example, the constant dieting by Regina George and Gretchen and all of the others, and constantly watching your carb intake and your fats intake and all of these things that are pretty normal and standard in a lot of diets. It's kind of wild to think that it's just making such a large resurgence. And honestly, kind of getting into even YouTubers who I feel like experience a lot of fat shaming is Trisha Paytas, for example. Am I the biggest fan of Trisha Paytas? No. There are a lot of ways that she kind of annoys me, but the fat shaming on Trisha Paytas is really insane, especially when she started doing kind of like spicier content and stuff like that. There were a lot of people who were really hateful to her about it. And Trisha Paytas is just a very full-figured woman. She always has been. And I don't know, it's just something that I have witnessed for many years at this point, is that nearly under every comment section of anyone who is more plus size, Lizzo is actually a great example of this. Everyone that I see who comments about Lizzo's weight and so forth is usually always a thinner person, and usually always someone who has a private profile page or like whatever, and it's just like a lot of useless hatred. It just makes no sense. Like the fat shaming, the fat hatred makes absolutely no sense. Like, what is scaring you? What is bothering you? What deep inside of you is making you so upset about fat people existing? It's just kind of weird behavior. Maybe go to therapy about it or something. I don't know. Now, kind of getting into the side of things that is more diving into the fashion side of it all. I kind of want to talk about brands again, right? Kind of going back to like what I touched on earlier when it comes to fashion in general, how plus size people are catered to, I also think about the trends that are associated with fat fashion and what is also extremely frustrating about it. I think of Torrid. Torrid being the plus size brand that probably pisses me off the most. I don't know what it is about designers of fat fashion that think that we just want to be covered in a burlap sack, or that we want to be covered in prints or Mickey Mouse. Everyone, I remember the Mickey Mouse collection just going insane on the internet and people being like, Torrid, what the fuck is this? Like, no one wants this. No one wants to be covered in Hogwarts symbols or Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or Twilight. Like, I don't know. Like, I think of all the things that they've released over the years that's just like, there's no fat person that actually wants this. Fat people want to be stylish too. They don't want to be covered in peplum tops and things that just cover us up. Like, we want something that is genuinely stylish, and there just hasn't really been a lot of plus size people included on trends. Even though that I have a deep frustration with micro trends and fads and so forth, and while they are upsetting in terms of like mass consumerism and the fact that a lot of people are lacking personal style and really exploring their sense of style, I do get kind of mad still that fat folk are rarely ever included within any type of trend at all. And if they are included, it's usually for a much higher price than it is for thin people to have it. Again, Torrid does this a lot, selling shirts for $80, dresses for about the same amount, sometimes even up in the hundreds. It is ridiculous how expensive Torrid is, and it's just not even good. It's not even good quality clothing. It's not even anything that makes fat people feel confident. It is just material, you know? And it's wild to me how expensive it is. And then thinking of Shein, right? And I talked about Shein in my last video, so I'm not going to go too into Shein right now. But, you know, thinking of like, yeah, you have a little bit more selection, but again, a lot of the choices for fat individuals is usually something that resembles a burlap sack. It has always drove me mad. Or prints. Oh my gosh. Don't get me wrong, prints are okay every now and again. Like, I like me a good leopard print every now and again. But I don't know if anyone has really noticed the fact that there are just so many brands that are covering plus size people in print. Whether it be stripes or paisley or plaid or cheetah print or leopard print or checkers. I don't know. It's just, yes, everyone should have like maybe a staple couple prints in their closet and so forth. But when plus size fashions only release like all that, like there's no one who wants a closet full of prints. I mean, maybe there is, but realistically, for most people, not everyone wants a closet full of prints. It's really hard to style prints. It's really hard to make them feel individual to you. And I feel like, you know, having a couple staple prints where you really can get into the styling of them is really important. But if that's all that they're going to offer plus size people, it's just kind of pointless. It just makes it feel like it's just covering us up. And then you have brands, which I call this the BBL brand. And I want to preface this by saying that there is absolutely nothing wrong with getting plastic surgery if that is something that you want. If you genuinely feel like it is something that is going to make you feel more confident. I don't necessarily judge that. What I judge is the fact that over the last couple decades, plastic surgery has become such a normalized thing that normal bodies, again, are covered up by something else that is becoming more of a trend and a fad than it is something that is resembling real bodies. BBLs are a good example of this. Fashion Nova is a brand that claims to cater to plus size clothing. But if you look at a lot of their models and a lot of the reviews, people very much struggle finding something that works at Fashion Nova because the waists on these clothing items are extremely tiny, while the butt is, you know, much larger or stretchier. The thighs, like, nothing about these clothes really fits well or logically. That actually kind of gets into something else as well, is like how fast fashion clothing is made in terms of still only catering to conventionally fat people. Now, when I say conventionally fat people, I mean people who fit into a more comfortable place between skinny or thin and plus size. So, for example, a model that I think of when I think of someone who is conventionally fat, I think of Tara Lynn. Or, oh my gosh, I wish I remembered her name. My brain, Amber something. Both of these women, very beautiful. So glad that they found a career in plus size modeling, but they are conventionally fat. They have smaller arms, smaller waists, bigger butt. You know, they have flat stomachs. And again, yes, these people exist, but they are also not the average, and they also have a lot more going for them in terms of fashion that is readily made available to them because of their dimensions. And within a lot of plus size clothing, again, Fashion Nova is one of the companies that does this really bad, is that they make the arms very small or the legs very small. It's so unrealistic. I mentioned earlier that one of my favorite brands is Foxblood, and while I love Foxblood, this is a brand that sometimes also does this. I got this beautiful coat from Foxblood. I've never really owned a winter coat growing up. I had like maybe one, but like all throughout high school and my early 20s, I never really owned a winter coat. So I bought one from Foxblood, so excited, and it comes in the mail, and it's really uncomfortable on my arms. It's small. It's a size 4X, but the arms are small as hell. Why they do that, I don't know, but it's probably because they more so, like a lot of brands, also cater to conventionally fat people who have smaller dimensions in certain areas because it is more aesthetically pleasing. Fashion Nova is a company that has done this so frequently that a lot of people have kind of fallen out of line of even buying Fashion Nova anymore because they just don't feel like the clothing oftentimes works, or it's just not very good quality. What plus size people want is quality. They want something that is going to make them feel nice, because yes, believe it or not, we deserve to feel nice too. And kind of going back to the ways that I believe that thin-spowing and heroin chic are very much coming back, is the fact that, again, so many of these brands are very much not including plus sizes anymore, or are including more conventionally fat plus sizes, but also the fact that the clean girl aesthetic is very much a huge thing right now. So I was watching another YouTuber who kind of brought this up, you know, the aspect of Kim Kardashian and, well, the Kardashians in general, getting butt implants and getting lip filler and cheek filler and breast implants and like all of these things, right, that made them curvier and really kind of changed the way that we saw bodies for a long time. Now getting their filler taken out, their lips smaller, like all of these things, and pushing towards a more minimalist clean girl aesthetic. The resurgence of the clean girl aesthetic is very relational to everything, to white supremacy and racism, to fat phobia, and this idea of perfection that is just not super attainable to most people. And if you have noticed, a lot of the people who participate in the clean girl aesthetic, especially on TikTok, are usually white women who are thinner, very pale, and are usually a lot more financially stable. So it kind of gets into that, as well as the fact that a lot of these trends stem from a place of kind of accepting whiteness and thinness as being the main source of attractiveness and desirability. And in a lot of ways, racism and fat phobia go hand in hand. Thinking back through history of how certain attributes were given to Black individuals or Native peoples, or any non-white persons in general, and how cleanliness and perfectionism and pale attractive features were obviously given to white individuals and were seen as being something more desirable. And I think for a lot of people that fact is greatly missed out on, because a lot of people don't want to see the microaggressions within our own cultures and how racism kind of seeps its way into multiple different facets of our society. That is definitely going to be something that I touch on in another video, because that is very deep to get into right now. It would make my video a million years long, but I will get to that eventually. Now, oftentimes whenever I bring up the issues of fat phobia within fashion and the media, you know, people will ask me, well, like, well, Noka, I mean, like, what are you going to do about it? Talking about it's not going to change anything. Well, to me, talking about it and bringing awareness to it is a good way to change it, because it is something that we need to be extremely aware of and how it affects our day-to-day life and our mental health and so forth. But the fact that these brands, these companies, these social media platforms, all these entities need to do better. They need to do better, because the thing is that fat phobia truly makes no sense to me. And before someone gets in my comments and says to me, oh, but people just hate fat people, they're not afraid of fat people, like, don't correct me, I will delete your comment. But I use fat phobia in a way to say that, like, I'm sorry, but people are genuinely afraid of being fat. Yeah, I've had friends in my past, for example, who talked about, like, oh, I'm so scared to gain weight, like, what if I don't, you know, fit into this or blah, blah, blah. All the while they're standing next to me looking at me, and they'll be like, oh, but you're beautiful. It's kind of like the whole, like, I hate saying that I'm self-conscious about something and someone saying, oh, but you're, like, not fat, you're beautiful. I never said that I wasn't beautiful. I never said that I wasn't attractive. Like, I can be fat and still be attractive, or like whatever. And it's a deeply frustrating thing, because I think that so many of these platforms just need to do better in how they cater to plus size individuals, because there's literally no reason to be afraid of catering to fat people. I would much rather people just say, you're fat, I just don't want to give you clothes, than to give all of these extremely half-assed reasons as to why they won't offer plus-size people clothing. And the fact of the matter is, it's just, it gets really old. Like, plus-size people deserve options. They deserve something that makes them feel good. I remember being younger and always thinking to myself how I would love to create a fashion label that is solely dedicated to plus sizes, but in a way that actively, so for example, like a plus-size goth fashion line that actually gives us something of value that isn't just these prints of upside down crosses and a kitten with black eyes saying, Lucifer, I'm calling you out, Killstar. But like, that actually offers something of value that can be used as everyday staples, that looks really good and can be dressed up or down. Again, there's not really much out there that exists other than Foxblood, which, again, love that brand, but they still need to work on some things. And I just think that the most that I can do is really just bring awareness to it and talk about it, because that is something that we need to do. If we have these platforms, we have the ability to make videos and have the energy to do that, we may as well talk about it. Because maybe someone out there is listening, someone who has the ability to change things, you know? And it's absolutely wild. It's absolutely wild getting closer to my 30s. I just turned 28, and it's wild getting closer to my 30s and thinking about the fact that what I grew up with then is kind of coming back now, seeing it actively displayed on TikTok and Instagram, and the body checking and all these things. And I just really want people to kind of get a grip a little bit. We really need to sit down and think about the things that we are posting and how that openly affects ourselves and other people. The body checking, the thinspo, all of these like different trends that are coming out that very much heavily cater to being thinner or getting thinner or all of these things. It's weird. It's extremely weird. I would like to see a big change in the way that fashion does that, like modeling, runway, and so forth does that as well. I will never expect big brands like Yves Saint Laurent or Marc Jacobs or Gucci or Hermès, all of these brands I don't really care about anyway, but I will never expect them to necessarily cater to fat people because they just simply won't. But for the brands that have came after them, you know, like now is the time to really kind of do better. There is no reason why you can't cater to fat individuals. There are numerous ways that you can do it. It's just a matter of caring to do so. But I wanted to say thank you for coming and watching this video. I kind of wanted to make a video for a long time, kind of going over these thoughts and how I have felt about this for a while. And there will be more videos in the future kind of individually like breaking down certain things that I mentioned in this video. But this is an overall just yapping session where I'm just kind of thinking about these things and getting them out there on the plate for us to kind of digest a little bit. And I will eventually come back and kind of go more in depth. I would like to make a video soon kind of going into the history of fat phobia in fashion and media and really deep dive into that, because as horrific as it is, it's also really interesting too how something keeps kind of fading in and out, in and out. So yeah, but I want to thank you guys for watching my channel. It is so lovely to be doing this again. I know I said that last video, but I'm saying it again now. I love being here, and I will see you next time.